That didn't work worth a hoot. That's exactly what I wanted to do. That's why you never leave. They've tangled that thing up all over the place. Hey, it's Rod from Dowdle Family Farms, and in this video, it is all about cows. Over the last year or two, I focused so much on grazing cover crops with pigs that we haven't spent as much time focusing on our cattle operation. And in this video, Bubba and I are going to move these 19 steers, and we're going to mob graze them on this cover crop behind us. I've been strip grazing it the last few days, but what I have found is that I don't have quite as much trampling effect. So Bubba, you ready to start mob grazing?
I reckon so. I don't know what it is, but I guess that's when you call the mafia in and they take care of it.
Now, so mob grazing, we typically rotationally graze our livestock. Sometimes we strip graze. In fact, we've been strip grazing this paddock with these cows, giving them a new strip of forage every day. But we're going to try some mob grazing, basically put a lot of livestock on a very small area. I'm going to try to get at least 250,000 pounds of animal per acre, and we'll try to do that. We may try to do a strip of 500,000 pounds per acre, but these cows are these steers, a couple of them are still a little crazy, so we may only make 100,000 pounds per acre. Before we do, let me jump over here and show you what this crop looks like and why I want to try mob grazing it. So this is where we've been strip grazing the cows with this cover crop. It was hairy vetch, cereal rye, ryegrass, some clover, red clover, as well as balanza clover, and of course chicory. I started grazing this several days ago, and the problem with strip grazing is that the cows have access to where the back of the paddocks that they were in. And the main reason we're strip grazing right here is because that's where the water tanks are. I don't care if the cows kill this grass because it's a cover crop that I'm trying to terminate, and then I'm going to plant our warm season cover crop in it in the next week or two. But I want to see if I can use mob grazing, and we're going to do it with this next paddock that we've got stripped and just see what happens. Now, what are in here right now are 19 steers. They are roughly, some of them are pushing 700 or 800 pounds, and some of them, as you can see, are significantly smaller. I'm just using a wild estimate of about 600 pounds on average per animal. Some of them are higher, some of them are lower. They may only be 500 pounds on average per animal. But I'm just trying to get a rough calculation. If there's 19 of them and they're 600 pounds per animal, we've got about 11 to 12,000 pounds live weight of animals. All right, Bubba, help me with the math here. If we're trying to get 100,000 pounds per acre and we have 11,000 pounds, that's 100,000, 11,000, that's about 1/9 or 1/10 of what we need. So we need 1/9 or 1/10 of an acre, which is about 4,000 square feet. Again, keep in mind, these are rough numbers. If we cut it down to 2,000 square feet, we'll be at a couple 100,000 pounds per acre. You get the idea. We're just trying to get a rough estimate. Jump. Do I have to do it for you? There you go. You're way over it. Well, other than you lost your crop, you should have put it in four-wheel drive. So right here where Bubba is, you can see where what they did not eat, they trampled pretty well. And that's in large part because it's next to the road where I'm driving, and they're constantly following me as I drive back and forth every day. But when you get a little bit further out, you can see, and you can tell looking out there, it looks like there's a lot of grass, and there's really not that much. It's gone to seed, and there's not a whole lot of real good grass for them to graze out here. There's some, but they haven't really trampled this. And what I want to see is if I put those steers in a much smaller size lot, I want to see if I can get more of a trampling effect. And that is my goal today. We just walked over, those two steers stayed there, and these others started running around in circles. They're just a little skittish, and that's why I'm a little nervous about putting them on 10,000 square feet. Would you rather mess with the electric fence that's hot, or would you rather go get that black water tank that's empty?
I'll go get the water tank.
Bubba's vertically challenged and doesn't like messing with the the hot electric fence and stepping over it. So Bubba and I set up 2 individual paddocks back here, and we'll show you what they look like in just a minute in terms of forage. But one of them is 1,600 square feet, 1,605 or something like that, the first one, and then the other one is 4,000. So essentially, if we put all of them and they weigh 600 pounds a piece average, then we've got about 300,000 pounds of live weight per area in this first paddock. And I'm dare to tell you, there's a lot that can go wrong here, but it just doesn't seem possible. The next one is 4,000 square feet, and I don't think they're going to be able to stay there more than a couple hours. But we're just going to see what happens. We're filling up the water tank, and before we put them in here, let me just show you what the forage looks like real quick. This is the 1,600 square foot paddock, and you can tell, I mean, there's not much right here, and what's here is mostly ryegrass that's gone to seed. There's a little cereal rye that's in its vegetative state, and of course there's chicory, some clover, a little bit of hairy vetch, and a good bit of clover, and also that we call it buttercup or something like that, that yellow weed there that grows in wet and acidic soils. So really, if all they do is trample this stuff down, I'll be happy. Now, I'd love for them to graze some of the clover. All right, Bubba, you ready for this?
Well, I got my Crocs in 4-wheel drive. I guess I'm ready to chase cows. Fortunately,
we have 2 minions that when things go wrong, we can blame it on them too.
That's right. It's Evan's fault anyway.
Yeah, it's always Evan's fault when he's not here.
At 300,000 pounds per acre, this stocking density is pretty high, and it is amazing just how tight this is. These steers have grazed what they wanted to out here, and now they're just kind of standing there waiting for more forage. There's still more for them to eat, but they're kind of tired of standing there. And that's kind of the point, just to get them to trample it and get it real tight. I can't imagine what it'd be like with 500,000 pounds per acre, or even 1,000,000 pounds per acre.
You can see how the steers are in there bunched up. They just don't have much room at all. Surprisingly enough, we put those steers in that 300,000 pound per acre paddock size with those steers. And as it turns out, they've done well. So we left and came down here and are setting up in this field, this 30-acre field. It's got some cross fencing, and we're just setting up some wire in between the gaps that we use as gates. I'm going to turn the camera around and show you what we're doing. So what we're doing is,
we are not doing anything.
Yeah, I'm done most of it. But anyway, so what we're doing is we're just setting up these temporary fences here for the paddock as a gap, rather than setting up gates and all that kind of stuff. But in this field, there's a 5-acre lot over there. You can see those dead trees just in line with the barn there. That is a 5-acre paddock we're gonna turn cows on into a few minutes. We'll show you that. We'll also turn cows in here at some point, and then a 5-acre paddock over there. Over here, we got to do fencing, and honestly, I'm not real sure the best way to set that up. That'll be another project for another day. But we've been gone a few minutes, and this is what this paddock looks like. Really, I'm a little surprised because I would have expected there to be less room in here. Surprisingly enough, these guys are that little steers, he's a jumpy. They're a little nervous that I'm in here with them. Some of them are. Is this off? You got this off? First thing that big steer is eating is the chicory. That's interesting. I got it.
I mean, they got it knocked down, but
the only thing, I really like how a lot of this is down. Of course, there's an ant hill right there. It's probably why that spot, but the rest of it is trampled reasonably well. But I don't know that it's, they were in here an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes. That's the thing. I'm not real sure how long you keep them in a spot like that. But see, they had stopped eating, stopped grazing. They were chewing cud a little bit, and now they're grazing like they're starving. Stocking rate of 300,000 pounds per acre. They've done a good bit of trampling and damage. Now, I just wanted to see if I could get them to trample everything, which right here they would have done it anyway. You know, in an ideal way, we would have done it on the back section, but I didn't have any water. They've actually knocked this down better than they knocked that down, and they've had access to that for 2 days. Come on.
So my goal here is really just to move these heifers south of Battle Road. This little 5-acre paddock here by this old tractor shed is where I want to plant our warm season cover crops. It's 5 acres. It's got water and shade. And so I can put up 4 cross fences and have roughly 1 acre size paddocks that'll be easy to strip graze, easy to mob graze, however we want to do it. And so it'll be pretty easy to do. I love just watching cows go out to fresh grass. They have a blast. And then eventually we'll get the cows across the road and move them down here as well, because we want to get as much of this forage done as we can before we disc it and plant our warm season cover crop mix.
That didn't work worth a hoot. I don't know if you can tell, but they knocked that fence down, drug that all over Heckenback, and pulled the wire off the fence. Hey Bubba, go energize it. The fence is hot now, but they've torn it up again. All right, so we got that back on. Just before I leave today, I'll give the cows the rest of this paddock and see what they do. But I really want them to trample or eat all this forage right here. That water tank's filling up. I'm gonna go on and bring the black water tank over here and fill it up.
He's a he-man. Look at him go. We're getting actual footage of Rob working. He does do it every now and then, contrary to popular belief by me and Evan. Evan will have to watch this video to see it and believe it. And this is about most he's done today, so we're at least getting a little bit out of him.
After we put those steers back in that 4,000 square foot paddock and gave them the extra water tank, we came down here to the 16th section land to move the brood cows to prep them for moving them south of Dowdle Road. So we've got to walk them about 12 or 1,500 feet from where they are now into a paddock. And then hopefully in another day or so, they'll be ready to move across the road and we can graze that area south of Dowdle Road. The goal there is to let them graze it real hard, and then we're going to plant parts of that with our warm season cover crop mix. So this is just a matter of getting them to follow. It takes a lot of time.
Those cows are standing at that gate and they are ready to go across the road. They don't want anything to do with this paddock.
As soon as we moved the cows into that paddock, man, they were waiting at the gate wanting to go across the road. So we went on and moved them all. It's one of those things that's real easy. You can't see it, but there's a little temporary poly wire on the back side of the road, opposite side of the road where I am in the blue shirt. Of course, we had to wait for this calf and its mama to come across as well, but they all moved across the road without any problem. It's one of those things that takes usually less than 2 minutes, and it works really well. They were just hungry and ready to go.
Well, Bubba, it's a pretty sunset.
Yeah, means we've been here too long.
So we've gotten a good bit done this afternoon. I'm kind of pleased we got the cows moved, the heifers moved, the cows moved across the road, fences put up, and we tried our hand at mob grazing. What do you think about that?
Nah, we ain't doing it no more. Not with me, at least.
Bubba's not a fan of mob grazing. So tell me what happened with you.
Well, we come back from moving the breeder cows, and the calves or the steers were everywhere. All up in here where they weren't supposed to be. We had turned the fence off, and during that time, they realized it was off, so they went ahead and came across back over here towards the road. Well, I come back to move them across. I'd get them across, get it set up. by the time I get almost set up, they tear it back down. So,
But
oh, yeah.
but part of the problem there was, first of all, they were moved after being there an hour and a half, and then they were in that other paddock for that 4,000 square foot paddock for 2 hours. So realistically, I mean, in their defense, they weren't used to, like, this will be up for a couple of days and they're used to it. So they weren't really used to it. And if we had turned the fence on, I think everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
But
get better at that
but again, we were moving the cows and everything else. Right now we've got 3 groups of cows. We got 10 or 11 heifers together. We've got the brood cows, and then we've got these steers that we're feeding out. And realistically, trying to mob graze every single group of them would be absolutely ridiculous. The other thing is, you know, it took probably 30 minutes to set up the 2 paddocks, and then we had to move them. It's with much larger herds of cattle, I think it would work much easier if you had predetermined paddock sizes. You know, that you could just open the gate and move them in or something like that. But it's, in this setup, it's just not very practical.
And my real question is it worth it because of what they're grazing versus what they're going to strip graze and what they're grazing and trampling? Are we losing a lot of feed there?
For me, right here, it's fine if they trample it because it's improving the soil. So what they don't eat is going to improve the soil. What they do eat, the bulk of it's going to come out of their back end anyway.
And that's going to be good for the soil.
Which will be good for the soil. So really, my purpose in trying to get them to trample this as much as anything was to terminate all this and kill it all. Because otherwise, I'm going to have to come through, and even if I bush hog it, I'd have to spray it or something to kill everything, even after the cows graze it. So honestly, just if they trample it, fine. If they eat it, fine. But anyway, practically, we're not going to be mob grazing 17 steers anytime soon. But we do get an idea of, look at that sunset, it is just beautiful. But we do get an idea of what it's like to mob graze, and really the true test is what the soil would look like after, you know, doing this for a summer or so. That's where the test would really come in, I think.
And good luck to you and Evan on that.
Yeah. Bubba's got to go home and watch a TV show with his bride that starts in
45 minutes?
46 minutes, and he has a 30-minute drive, and we still got to get to the other side of the farm and feed the breeder pigs. So y'all take care and have a great day.